Well, hello, folks. It's about noon. So we here at the Missouri Department of Conservation want to welcome you all to our wild webcast on bald eagles and Eagle Days in Missouri. I'm Joe Jarek with the department's Outreach and Education Division, and I'll be hosting today's webcast. We are joined by two topic experts, so let's give a warm welcome to them. We have our MDC resource scientist, Janet Haslerig, and also our MDC media specialist, Dan Zarlenga. Welcome, Janet and Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A little bit more about them. Janet was born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and received her Bachelor of Science degree in Animal Science from Middle Tennessee State University. She then earned her Master of Science degree in Wildlife Management from the University of Missouri-Columbia and her PhD in Wildlife Ecology from the University of Florida. Janet has worked with the U.S. Geologic Survey, the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and also Tuskegee University. Janet's traveled the world extensively and worked in protected areas such as Tanzania and Ghana on human-wildlife conflicts and ecotourism. She's been employed with MDC since 2008, and Janet is our principal investigator for a long-term monitoring songbird project. She's also our bald eagle recovery leader, and we'll learn more about that today, and the state coordinator for our annual breeding bird survey. Janet's looking forward to implementing a new citizen science Eagle Watch program and securing Missouri's first Eagle Cam. So thanks again for joining us today, Janet.
Thank you, Joe.
And Dan Zarlenga is our media specialist for the St. Louis region and also an accomplished photographer. We'll be seeing some of Dan's photo skills later today as we look over many pictures from our Eagle Days events over the past several years. Dan has been active with Eagle Days for about 10 years now, and he's been with MDC since 1996, where he started as an audio production specialist. His work included creating audio products and designing soundtracks for our videos and providing audio support for other video shoots and creating recordings of wildlife and nature sounds. Dan has served as the MDC Regional Media Specialist in St. Louis since 2008, and prior coming to MDC, Dan earned his bachelor's degree in communications from the University of Missouri-Columbia and spent 8 years doing broadcast and radio production, voiceovers, and writing. So again, welcome again, Dan, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And we also want to say welcome and thank you to our more than 35 webcast participants with new folks joining us here. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time and interest in this very popular topic. So we want to let you know you can share your questions for our topic experts, Dan and Jan, through the chat box on the right side of your webcast screen. And we'll answer those questions as time permits. So let's jump right in with Janet on some background on bald eagles in Missouri. So Janet, bald eagles had a bit of a tough past. Why don't you tell us more?
They have. I'm going to start from back in the 1700s. There were about 100,000 bald eagles in the United States. And around the 1960s, that number was reduced to 487 nesting pairs. But Missouri, you see, we have a little bit different story. Just 1890, they were nearly eliminated as nesters. And this was mainly not only in Missouri, but because of habitat loss and destruction, illegal shooting, and pesticide poisoning. But they were protected under Endangered Species Act, started in 1967.
All right. Well, after that tough pass, things started getting better. So why don't you tell us about some reintroduction efforts?
They did, in cooperation with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Dickerson Park Zoo in Springfield. From 1981 to 1990, we released 74 young bald eagles in Missouri to hopefully get them reestablished as nesters. And we obtained these from wild breeding populations, and we released them in Mingo National Wildlife Refuge and Shell Osage Conservation Area. And I want to point out the picture here for anybody who knows this particular famous bird. This is Phoenix. She's with Dickerson Park Zoo. She was one of the 74 young bald eagles that were released in Missouri. And she unfortunately did not survive in the wild. She was rehabilitated, brought into Dickerson Park Zoo in 1989. And she has remained there. She's about 29 years old.
Wow,
looking
she
pretty
looks
good.
great.
Yeah, so she serves as an ambassador for us.
What a great ambassador.
Yes, she is.
So we brought eagles back. How are things looking today?
Actually, they're looking pretty good. This is, I guess, it's hailed as a conservation success story because the bald eagles were removed from the Endangered Species Act in 2007. And a lot of people think just because it's removed from the Endangered Species Act that it's no longer protected. But it is. It's protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Bald and Golden Eagle Act. In Missouri, it is a species of conservation concern.
All right, so with our efforts and efforts of others, how are the numbers stacking up today?
Unbelievable. This is amazing. As you see here, we started monitoring in 2006, more of a concerted effort. And these are all area surveys in Missouri. So from 2006 to 2018, I did area surveys each one of those years. And as you see, the numbers have increased to this year, 443 active eagle nests.
Wow. That is an impressive increase. And again, folks, share your questions with us through the chat box. We already have a question from Heather when she's out hiking with her kids. If they find eagle feathers, can you keep them?
No, I'm sorry, you cannot. It is illegal. The feathers and all eagle parts, including nest and eggs, are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Bald and Golden Eagle Act, so it is a fine and a penalty associated with that.
All right, good to know, and thanks for the questions. So Janet, you also coordinate our Eagle monitoring program. Tell us more about that.
I am pretty excited about this. This is a new program I just started this spring, this year. We get citizen scientists volunteered to serve to monitor all the active eagle nests. We need more. And the goal is pretty simple. We want people to go out and tell us what's out there, how many nests are active. And we also want to know which nests are not active again this year, how many young are produced, and of those young, how many actually survive to fledge. We often miss this part of the information when we do our area surveys because we only have that snapshot in time that we go up one time, but the eyes on the ground are able to tell us how many chicks are actually survive. So this is really important information that goes to the reproductive of the bald eagle in the state, which we haven't had in the past.
All right, and folks, it's as simple as if you're interested to know where an eagle nest is, you can help out. Why don't you tell us more?
Yep. The requirements are pretty simple and they're pretty fun. We state here a minimum of 3 visits to the nest. Do use binoculars or spotting scope. And I say 3 visits as a minimum, but a lot of our monitors, they go out 4, 5, 6 times. You know, they go out quite as many times as they want, and we don't mind that. The more, the better. And spend about 30 minutes watching the nest. And of course, you're more than welcome to watch longer, and several people do. And feel free to take any pictures and submit those with your observations and send them to me.
All right, and again, the binoculars and spotting scopes are pretty important because the nests, they're usually pretty high up in the trees, and I think they're bigger than most people realize.
They are. The nests are fairly large. They're pretty conspicuous. It is hard to see in the nest sometimes, depending on the vantage point that you're looking. But you have a nest about 4 to 5 feet wide, so it's pretty huge. It's usually not mistaken an eagle nest for anything else. But you want to be able to have the binoculars and the spotting scope to see if there's any chicks or eaglets in the nest.
All right. And again, the program objectives here?
Pretty simple. We want to increase the public awareness and education about the recovery of the bald eagle in our state. We want to educate volunteers about general eagle nesting biology and laws and identify any threats. And I think this is an important part here, identifying the nest threats, because we're not out there all the time as an agency. And we need to know what's going on in terms of there's new construction, if there's probably a nest that has fallen down. We need to send someone out there to recover chicks if something had fallen out the nest. We just need to know more of what's going on in the ground, and volunteers serve that purpose. And we want to locate those new nests. We want to increase those number of new nests, but we also want to update what we have in our database for those existing nests. Is it still active? Has it been destroyed? Has it moved to another location? We just need updates on what's out there already.
All right, and it's pretty simple. If folks want to get involved, they can just email eaglewatch@mdc.mo.gov, or they can go to our website, mdc.mo.gov/Eagle Watch Program.
And we have about 35 monitors right now The program is growing. Like I said, this is the first year, but we have 445 active nests, so we need more monitors.
We need more. So folks, if you're interested, and tell your friends and share this information, and then email eaglewatch@mdc.mo.gov. So with wintering eagles here, what can folks expect to see when they're out there looking for wintering eagles?
Well, Missouri is really a good state to watch wintering bald eagles because we have a large source of water supply, open water source supply, large rivers, lakes, reservoirs. And as you see here, this is part of the Midwinter Waterfowl Survey, and this is conducted annually by agency. And it started in 1993. Even though it is a midwinter waterfowl survey, they do collect information on bald and golden eagles. And you see here, as the numbers go up and down, we have a low sometime of 1,500 and a high of almost 3,000. And the yellow marks the number of golden eagles that are recorded in the state as well.
Wow, and those numbers are kind of new. So we have some confirmed reports of a few golden eagles throughout the state.
We do. And these numbers fluctuate just based on the condition of the surveys at the time, weather conditions.
All right, and we have a question from one of our participants with the Eagle Watch program. Are you assigned a nest, or do you find a nest and then let us know and watch that one? How's that work?
Well, it works both ways. If you're currently watching a nest and we don't have it on our database, that is your nest now. And if you don't have a nest and you want a nest, we will assign you a nest. Just tell us what county you're located in and how many nests you want.
Okay. Again, folks, share your questions through the chat box. Janet, we have another question. Eagles are down here a whole lot in the winter. When do they actually nest?
Well, that is a good question because a lot of people start thinking they nest in December, January. They actually are on the nest around November, December, but they start to refurbish or redecorate the nest at that time. In January, February, they're usually on the nest and they're pretty much hatching and staying put. So around April or March, when we do our area surveys, we do see the eggs and the chicks at that time.
Okay, so they start repairing and build their nests in
Yep.
November, December, and then they lay eggs.
Sometimes in January, sometimes in February. We see different, some get started a little bit early, some get started a little bit later.
All right, and how many chicks do they normally have?
Well, they lay typically between 1 to 3 eggs, but generally only 2.
2 hatch.
2 hatch. We have had some that 3 have survived to fledgling, but you don't see it as often as the 2.
Okay, great information. Thank you. And again, folks, keep your questions coming. Now let's talk a little bit about Eagle Days coming up. So let's hear from Dan about Eagle Days in Missouri.
Sure. Well, Eagle Days are basically celebrations of bald eagles in Missouri, and MDC has a number of Eagle Day events throughout the state. So they're accessible to a lot of folks, no matter where you live. You can probably find one that's not too far of a drive. And these are basically educational family events that offer the public a chance to see eagles in the wild and oftentimes up close, and just to learn more about them and hopefully be able to appreciate them a little bit more. Now, the timing of our Eagle Days events is usually in December and January, and that, as Jan said, kind of coincides with when we have a big influx of eagles coming down from the north. So our eagle population swells quite a bit by many times, and so people have more of a chance to see eagles. And so it's a great time to have the festival and to promote awareness for them. As I was already mentioned, Missouri's got a lot of great open waters, from large lakes to big rivers. And that attracts eagles because they're coming down here basically to look for fish, because the waters up north are typically frozen those times of year. So it's kind of like, we go to Florida during the winter, they come to Missouri for the winter. So,
So again, this is kind of south to eagles.
It's south to them, yes.
Where are they coming down from?
Well, I think the northern states in Canada. Is that correct, Janet?
That is correct.
Yeah, so up north, where at that during those times the waters are freezing up down there and a lot more ice. They can't get to their fish, so they're coming down here and seeking those open waters where they can fish a lot more easily.
And that ties into a good question we have from Chris. What do eagles eat?
Their diet consists mainly of fish, usually about 80%, 70-80% of fish, but they're called opportunistic foragers because they eat what's available. So they will eat turtles, they will eat reptiles, snakes, and other mammals such as rabbits. So their diet kind of varies, but the mainly is mostly fish and
Fish
carrion.
and carrion. So they'll find carcasses, and they're kind of, they could be scavengers.
They are
large
scavengers
animals.
on large animals, roadkill you see on the side of the road. You often see them there as well.
All right. So Dan, with our Eagle Days, especially the one you're going to talk about, it's primarily over water, so they're hunting for fish. You've been involved in Eagle Days at the old Chain of Rocks Bridge in the St. Louis area for many years now. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So Eagle Days, the old Chain of Rocks Bridge, is our St. Louis area Eagle Days event, and it gets to be pretty big. We hold it Saturday and Sunday, so it's a 2-day event. The same weekend of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, usually. So in 2019, coming up in a month or so, it'll be January 19th and 20th. So that's when it's going to be held this year. As I say, 2-day event, and it's been going on since 1994. So it's, we've got more than 25 years or so at the event. And in some of our better years, we've drawn as many as 10,000 visitors over those 2 days. So, a lot of that's weather dependent, of course. And that's a little bit of a dice roll that time of year, but we've had as many as 10,000 for the 2 days. So it's a well-attended event.
Oh, sure.
Several thousand is common.
Okay, that's amazing. And we can't do this alone. And Eagle Days involves a lot more than just MDC. So tell us more about our partners.
Sure. Well, the old Chain of Rocks Bridge is located just north of St. Louis, and it spans the Mississippi River into Illinois. So one of our partners is Illinois Department of Natural Resources. They've been a key partner with us for many, many years. Couldn't do it without them. And of course, we're drawing folks from Illinois too, are coming to this festival. So they've been a great help in putting this on. Also, we're teaming up with Great Rivers Greenway, which is a St. Louis-based entity that is designing a large greenway trail system throughout the metro area. They also are managing the bridge, and the bridge is part of that trail system. So they're helping us with this event too, and graciously allowing us to use the bridge for the event. So this Great Rivers Greenway, Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and Missouri Department of Conservation, we got a great team there to put the event on.
All right, so let's give a shout out to the Illinois DNR and also the Great Rivers Greenway. And again, we have a question. So thanks to our Wolf School student, Ethan. Ethan wants to know, so if you find a wounded eagle, who should a person call? What do you do?
Yes, Ethan. It depends on what county you're in. The first call is to the local conservation agent of your county. If you don't know that, contact your local office if you have that information. And if not, contact me. We do have licensed wildlife rehabilitators in the state, so we do make sure we get to the proper resources for treatment. And we have been known in the past to do some type of relay work. The conservation agent pick it up, I meet them halfway, or somebody else will meet them halfway, and we take them to a rehabilitator in the area. So make sure you get in touch with someone.
Someone from the conservation department.
Yes.
So thanks again, Ethan. And it's some photo time, folks. So Dan and Janet, Dan, mostly walk us through the pictures that are coming up of some Eagle Days events.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, the one in St. Louis, where we hold at the historic Old Chain of Rocks Bridge. That's in North St. Louis County, and it actually provides an excellent eagle watching venue because it's a bridge over the Mississippi River. So we've got eagles flying around the river, fishing. We've got eagles perching in trees along the banks. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And the bridge itself is really an attraction because it was part of the original Route 66 that a lot of folks are familiar with. It went right through there, and the bridge itself was constructed, or finished, I should say, and opened in 1929. So it goes back a few years, and it was at that time a vehicle bridge, one of the main bridges to traverse from Illinois to Missouri. Eventually, when they opened the other 270 bridge, it no longer, it closed down for that type of traffic in around 1968, but it's now currently on the National Register of Historic Places and is open for pedestrian and bicycle traffic. So
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And it's kind of a famous bridge, and it's got a beautiful view of the Mississippi River. You can see the St. Louis skyline, as you can see in these pictures here, and it gets its name from a shoal just to the south of the bridge that the water, it's basically a chain literally of rocks, and the water flows over that, creating a little bit of a rapids type situation. And one of the things that the eagles like about that is it turns up fish. So it's kind of a fish buffet. It's an easy way to get an easy meal.
Well, how handy. Thanks, nature, for putting that right by the bridge. That's great for folks to see.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's really neat to see. And then, so during the event, as you can see here, one of the big highlights is we have spotting scopes set up on the bridge. Got a great elevated vantage point there. And so we have trained volunteers at the spotting scopes that allow our visitors to view the eagles in the wild through the spotting scopes. And the trained volunteers they're really a really big help because it can be challenging, sighting eagles and finding them and stuff like that. So they're really, really good at that. They help folks find the eagles, and they do some great interpretation, tell folks about some facts about them and all that. So this is a really key component of the event for people to actually see them in the wild. So, and that's a really popular, it's amazing seeing the expression on people's face when they actually see some eagles in the trees. And it's pretty neat, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Very rewarding.
And again, folks, you could bring your own binoculars and cameras and spotting scopes. We will provide some binoculars and spotting scopes.
Yes, so we have spotting scopes set up. So if you don't have anything, you'll definitely still get to see eagles. But if you've got your own spotting scopes, binoculars, cameras, especially with the telephoto lenses, you're totally welcome to bring them, and you can get your own pictures and view them at your own leisure too.
All right, what should folks definitely bring?
Well, yes. So we got to remember we're in the winter here. This is January, and we're on a bridge above water. So it does get cold and it does get very breezy. So we really, really urge folks to dress warmer than you think you're going to need to dress. At least 10 degrees. If it says 30 degrees, dress like it's going to be 20 because it gets really cold up there. Bring your hats, your gloves, make sure the kids are bundled up. So just be sure that you do have that. Now, on the bridge, we also have a tent halfway across the bridge. So the bridge is about a mile long, again, between Illinois and Missouri. We have a tent that's heated in the center of the bridge. So you can go in there and get some relief and from the wind and some warm up and all that. And we've got some things going on in there too. As we can see here, we've got our friends from St. Louis Audubon Society always show up. They have a really nice table with a bunch of different bird mounts, not just eagles. We have songbirds and woodpeckers and all kinds of cool things that folks can learn about, see birds, and learn from the very knowledgeable folks of the St. Louis Audubon Society.
It's literally like some hands-on.
Literally, you can touch the birds, the mounted birds that they have. So it's, again, a chance to see them up close. And got things going on for the kids too. We've got kids crafts, and the big thing there is making eagles masks. So kids can get their little eagle, cut out their mask, color it themselves, and attach it to a stick, and they can go pass for a bald eagle. So that's really, really popular too among the youngsters.
And we have some partners here too with some additional programs.
Sure. So now on both sides of the bridge, we also have warming tents, so folks can warm up there as well. And on the Missouri side, we have the World Bird Sanctuary, featuring live bald eagle programs every 20 minutes or half hour or so. So, they're constantly doing them. So no matter when you arrive, chances are you'll be able to catch one of the programs. And they bring in a live bald eagle. And that's a chance to see an eagle very, very close and literally almost within arm's distance, because when at the end of the program, folks go through the front and they can actually take pictures with the eagle even. So it's pretty cool. Some years they'll even bring a golden eagle to compare them, or an immature and a mature eagle, so we can see the difference.
And this is a good example. The eagle in the picture, it has some of the brown feathers still on its head. Tell us a bit, Janet, as far as how old is that eagle, and are they born with white heads, or how's that develop?
No, this I would say it would be about 3.5, 4 years old. They don't reach sexual maturity, meaning they don't have the complete white head or the white tail until the age 4 or 5. So this one's almost there, a little bit longer.
And when they're kind of fully fledged in young birds, they're all brown?
They are all brown. We have some really good pictures that we're going to show you, but they are pretty fuzzy when they're first born, covered with down, a little white, gray, and a little bit older, they're completely dark brown.
Okay, and again, Wolf School, thanks for joining us. We have Sean, student at Wolf School, who wants to know how old or big are the eaglets when they leave the nest?
They almost adult size. They leave about 8 to 14 weeks of age, and they don't go too far. They stay close to mom and dad because they're still kind of dependent on getting food. So they do hang around the nest for several weeks later, and sometimes up to a year later, and kind of learn how to catch fish or how to feed themselves during that time and learn how to fly.
Okay, pretty cool. And Ari from Wolf School also wants to know, why is it illegal to take eagle feathers?
Well, we have laws and regulation, and the Migratory Bird Treaty Act that we have, and the Bold and Golden Eagle Act says that we just cannot take any parts related to migratory birds, and the bald eagle is a migratory bird. We do have requirements that you can fill out a process that Native Americans use it for
Mhm.
ceremonial purposes, but not for the public, unfortunately.
Okay, and I think a long time ago, feathers were real popular in hats and things, so people would
Absolutely.
literally shoot eagles and owls and songbirds and things just for their feathers, and I think that's part of why they made this illegal, because it really wiped out a lot of populations.
Absolutely, Joe.
Um, Noah wants to know why the eagle was chosen as the national symbol.
It's a bird of courage.
All
And
right,
this was chosen in 1782. It is our national bird and it's our national symbol on our emblem.
pretty cool. Pretty cool. Also, Sherry wants to know, do we have any eagle nests that we have live streaming cameras on?
Oh, unfortunately, we do not. I've been working on that for the last 2 years, trying to work with University of Missouri to get one out in a perfect location, but the funding, we're still looking at the logistics of trying to do that. So hopefully within the coming year, we get a little bit more information and we'll definitely share that with the public.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And also, Wolf School wants to know, Sawyer, what's the estimation of eagles in 2019? Any big estimation on the number of eagles we have now
You
in the
mean
state,
in the state?
in the country,
Well,
however?
in the state, they're definitely rising because I think there's more nests out there and we have more people reporting nests. A lot of people think that we have all the nests in our database and we know what all the active eagle nests are, and we do not. So we encourage people to report that. And US wide, we're looking at about 10,000, but I think that's really underestimating the number of bald eagles that's in the US. So I think that number is definitely on the rise as well, Missouri and nationwide.
Okay, so even if bald eagles aren't just about everywhere in the wild, they're at Eagle Days. So
Yes.
Dan, we were talking about some of the programs and events we have going on. What else can folks discover?
Well, the Eagle Days of the Old Chain of Rocks Bridge, we also are fortunate to be joined by Corps of Discovery reenactors. So we have a Corps of Discovery folks there setting up a living history camp, basically, and reenacting a lot of aspects of life on the Lewis and Clark expedition. So that's always really popular with visitors as well. We have, as we see in the picture, a flag raising and lowering ceremony each day. And one of the other popular demonstrations is fire starting. And that's the good old fashioned way where you have charred cloth, you have flint and steel, you strike the flint on the steel to create sparks on the charred cloth that smolders, and you put it in what they call a bird's nest, which is basically a very loose array of kindling, and then you blow on it to get it to ignite. And that's always really popular to start fire.
And these folks camp out there?
Yes, they camp out there and they spend the night, and it can be 20
Wow.
degrees or whatever.
Right.
But hey, that's how the Lewis and Clark guys live, so that's what they do.
Okay.
And they have a lot of other cool things too, like period firearms, a doctor who shows off, medical stuff from the time period and all that.
Okay, and there's other fun activities. What do we see in here?
So, okay, we already talked about the eagle's nest a little bit. So we actually have an eagle nest replica where folks can get in, and it's a great photo op. We have folks posing in it all the time. We can fit about 3 or 4 people in there, actually, and it gives a chance for people to see really how big these eagle nests are. And I don't think it really, when you see them up in a tree, it doesn't really register possibly at that distance. But when you see it up close, you realize, wow, this is a pretty big nest.
Speaking of eagle nests, you have a question from Sally. She wants to know, again, what's like the largest eagle nest, and are there any famous eagle nests?
Absolutely. Good question. I'm glad you asked. Typically, remember, we only have eagle nests that are about 4 to 5 feet wide, but the world record for the largest nest, this occurred in Florida. This was early 1960. It was 10 feet wide and 20 feet deep, and it weighed 2 tons.
20
over
feet
4,000.
deep.
20 feet deep.
It's a big nest.
Big nest, big nest. And we have a famous nest that occurred in Ohio. This was back in the early 1920s. This was used for 34 years. We think by 2, pair of eagles. It was a wine-shaped nest, and it was 8.5 feet wide, and it was 12 feet deep, and it also weighed 2 tons. And not surprising, Joe, the nest fell down. The tree broke.
Right, literally from the weight of that. That is
Absolutely.
amazing. These are big nests, and these are big birds. Dan, folks can also see just how big they are.
Sure, we have our famous eagle wingspan banner, and basically it's a giant banner that has an eagle painted life-size eagle on it, 7.5 foot wingspan. And it's one of those things where you see eagles flying in the air, you don't really appreciate how large their wingspans can be. And this kind of brings it home with this banner, and it's got a face cut out so you can pose, get a nice photo op with it and everything. But people are usually pretty amazed that the span of the eagle's wings is often larger than what you can.
They're huge.
What you can do with your
Sure.
arms.
And we have a slightly fun eagle with smaller wings, but a
Yeah.
little bit bigger, who's there to entertain.
Yeah, he doesn't fly so well, but he's very good at entertaining folks and posing for photo ops. So we definitely always have our eagle mascot there.
Good to know. And as we talk more about Eagle Days, Chain of Rocks Bridge, we want folks to know that, again, we have Eagle Days happening all throughout the state. So if you want more information, visit us online at mdc.mo.gov and search Eagle Days, and you can see a list of the events we offer and also just some hot spots for viewing eagles throughout the state. So even if you can't make an event, you can get out there on your own and view eagles. We have a question from Holly. What's the difference between northern and southern bald eagles?
That's mostly the size. There's a size difference between northern and southern. The northerns are a little bit larger, and the southerns are a little bit smaller.
Okay, good to know. And we don't have a live eagle nest camera yet in Missouri, but we're working on that.
Not yet. We're working.
All right, we just want to let folks know that we do have live cameras on peregrine falcon nests in St. Louis and Kansas City. And again, folks can go to mdc.mo.gov and search wildlife cameras, I believe. All right, Elena at the Wolf School wants to know kind of generally, how do you rehab an eagle? It depends on a whole lot of stuff, doesn't it?
It does. It definitely depends on the injury of the bird. How long has the bird been out there without medical care? So the sooner the better to get there. And the facility in which you take it, Rural Bird Sanctuary does an excellent job. MU Rehab does an excellent job. We have others that do an excellent job as well. It's just finding the right one and the amount of damage that's done to whatever part.
Right.
And we still, some lead poisoning, and that's, you have to get to those type of birds immediately. We see some with broken wings. So it's just best to get immediate attention as soon as possible and hope for the best.
Good to know. Good to know. And Megan would like to know, we talked, bald eagles aren't born with the white heads and stuff, but what about their feet? Are they born with those bright orange feet or yellow legs?
No, that comes with sexual maturity too. So as they age, they do start to turn color as well.
Okay, and talking about a lot of eagles that are rehabilitated, they can't be released into the wild. So Dan, at Eagle Days, we mentioned our friends at Dickerson Park Zoo and the World Bird Sanctuary and other rehabbers bring these captive eagles so folks could see them up close. And here's an example.
And here's an example. And that's kind of neat for birds that can't be rehabilitated, because it still gives them a purpose. They have a good life with wherever they are at the zoo or bird sanctuary, and they get to go out and be ambassadors for their species to the public. So it gives them a new life and a new purpose as ambassadors, and it gives the public a chance to see these birds up close in a way they would never normally be able to see them. And that's one of the things we see at the Eagle Days celebrations, is when folks can see that live eagle up close. They can see it within 5 feet. And again, typically there are opportunities during the World Bird Sanctuary at the end of their presentation for folks to come up and actually take pictures, and you can even get a great picture of an eagle with your smartphone, and that's amazing to be able to do that.
That is pretty cool. And Janet, you mentioned that one of the ambassadors, Phoenix, she's like 29 now.
She is.
How long can eagles live, and how long do they typically live in the wild?
In the wild, we estimate between 20 to 25, but in captivity, as we see from Phoenix, they do live longer in captivity. I think the oldest record is about 48 years of age.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And do they use the same nests in the wild over the course of their lives?
That's a yes and a no. Most eagles, at least the ones in Missouri, they do have two nests usually, and they alternate between those. They may use
Interesting.
one nest for 5 years, 10 years, and if one nest maybe was not successful, they may use the other one. If one destroyed, they use that nest, but they do continuously use one of the two nests.
Okay. And do they mate for life?
They do.
Karen wants to know.
They do. They mate for life, Karen, and if one loses a mate, they do find another mate.
Okay. All right. And again, if folks want to see eagles in the wild at our Eagle Days, we saw again spotting scopes and more history that goes on there.
Yeah, so it's a great opportunity for people of all ages. We get everyone from young children to grandparents, and everyone getting a chance to view eagles. So it's great for the whole family, really.
And here's some more shots of eagles on the water and in nests, and this is what folks can see. Looks like a pretty beautiful winter day that year.
Yeah, and so it's a great thing to do in the winter too, because a lot of times people think, well, there's not much to do, it's cold outside. Something like an Eagle Day celebration, or even just going out and viewing eagles, that's a great winter activity, something to do when it's cold out.
And it looks like a lot of fun. Here's some more photos from some of our eagle monitoring photographers out there.
Absolutely. I love getting photos from our Eagle Nest monitors. I appreciate them. This is Bruce in Crawford County.
Shout out to Bruce.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And he takes awesome photos from beginning to the end, from the nesting to the fledgling and when they're leaving the nest.
Okay, so the big picture of the eagle in flight, the coloration on that, just explain that to us.
That's a juvenile.
Okay.
That's a juvenile, probably 2 years old, maybe a little bit younger.
Wow.
And you see the spotting, the white and the brown in there. You don't have the white head or the white tail or the yellow bill yet.
But under the wings, there seems to be a lot more white.
There's a lot of moat in there.
Okay.
There's a lot of white mixed in there, yes.
Okay, and then in the top right picture, that's a parent, an adult eagle.
It is with two eaglets right there. Pretty good photo to get both of those eaglets. And
That's
then
great.
we have those same eaglets growing a little bit larger, and they're eating.
Okay. And what is that in the center picture in that nest? What's on the edge of that?
Well, Bruce calls it turtle on the half shell.
Okay.
So it is a turtle.
And you mentioned that they're scavengers, they're mostly fish eaters, so they'll take roadkill dead turtles, or they could even skim a turtle off of a log and take that back to the nest?
Well, most likely this was a dead one already,
Okay.
but it's a whole lot easier if one has been, a roadkill turtle like that for the shell.
Okay, pretty amazing. And Dan, we are back at Eagle Days here, and Sherry wants to ask perhaps one of the most important questions.
Sure.
Are there restrooms on the bridge or near the bridge for Eagle Days?
Well, yes, we actually do have restrooms on the bridge and either side of the bridge, the Johnny on the spot type restrooms, but they're definitely there. And so we've got that base covered for you. But you do have to bring the warm clothes, though. That's definitely a must.
Okay, and again, folks, keep the questions coming. Also, with Sherry, let's add on, what about like refreshments or things for folks? Kids get hungry.
Sure.
Spending the day.
And we have a food vendor on site that serves a variety of kinds of foods like hot dogs and sandwiches, and hot cocoa is really popular when it's cold out. So he's there every year, and the prices are pretty reasonable. So you've got an opportunity to get some food and refreshments there if you want, and that's always a big attraction.
All right, and let's see, we have a question. Janet, you mentioned eagles lay often 3 eggs, but only 1 or 2 hatch and all that. About how many of those third eggs make it?
It's very low. I would estimate it's probably below 30%, maybe even 20%, because with eagle eggs, they hatch at different days, and the biggest eaglet or chick gets the food.
Okay.
And usually that third one doesn't hatch until maybe 3 or 4 days later than those first 2, and much smaller, not able to get as much food as the first 2.
Okay. And here's a pop quiz. Lucas wants to know, how many feathers does a bald eagle have?
Yay, 7,000.
It's a lot of feathers.
Yes, it is.
All right. All right. And let's see. Here's some more photos. Again, shout out to Bruce. Some eaglets in the nest. So during Eagle Days, Dan, we're not going to see really eaglets in the nest, but we'll see eagles, as Janet, you said, preparing their nest and fixing their nests.
Yes.
All right. And then we saw some eagles in trees and more fun. Dan, that's a good prompt. Are pets allowed?
Well,
Eagle Days?
we don't recommend bringing pets because for safety reasons, for the pet's concern, and sometimes if we do have some icy or snowy weather, we do have to put some substances on the bridge to prevent the ice from building up, and that's not really good for pets' paws, and it's sometimes you can get kind of crowded and at certain points in certain areas, so it's probably better to leave your pets at home.
Okay.
For that particular event. But we definitely urge people to come out. And, we talk a lot about bald eagles, but oftentimes from the bridge's vantage point, we see other birds too, which are really interesting. Peregrine falcons are typically around, and we often have those in the spotting scopes as well. So it's a chance to see some other things besides eagles too.
Okay. And again, when folks get there, they could see the eagles in the wild, but also World Bird Sanctuary.
Yes, and in this particular
program.
Yes, and in this particular program here was really interesting is they brought a golden eagle too, so folks could see the difference between a bald eagle and the golden eagle. You see the bald eagle on the left there in the photo, and the golden eagle on the right, and you can kind of see the differences in the size and so forth on them too.
That's pretty cool. Question from Becky, and she asked this strangely a little bit ago: which is bigger, the bald eagle or the golden eagle?
Well, by weight, they're the same. The bald eagle is a little bit taller, and the wingspan is a little bit wider
Than the golden eagle.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then by the males and females aren't the same size either. So with golden eagles, which is bigger, the female or the male?
Well, in all raptors, Joe, females are larger. They're about 25% larger than the males. And that includes with eagles as well.
It's a great quiz question, folks. Wolf School kids with raptors, females are about 25% larger than the males. Good to know. Steve wants to know, this is a question we get asked a lot. Now, do bald eagles attack and carry off livestock?
No, they do not. That is a myth. They do not. They do feed on the carrion, if there's a dead calf or deer or something like that. So that is definitely a possibility. But I do tell people that I do get those calls worrying about their pets, their small dogs or small cats. And I do tell them that if they have an eagle hanging around in the neighborhood or in the area, make sure you do accompany your pet outside on a leash during that time, during the breeding season when they're readily in the area.
Okay, and how much do eagles weigh, bald eagles about?
Well, the male weigh about 8 to 10 pounds. The female can weigh between 10 to 14 pounds.
And they can carry
about 1/3 of their weight, or about 4 pounds.
Okay.
So
good size fish.
A good size fish.
Mammal.
Yes.
All right. So to be clear, folks, bald eagles don't attack livestock. They weigh about 12 pounds. They could only carry about 4 or 5 pounds. So if you do have a small pet, be careful if there's an eagle in the area. All right. And Dan, with some eagles, here's another picture. Janet, what are these?
This is excellent photos from Paul, another new eagle nest monitor. This is a golden eagle and a bald eagle acting silly over to the right.
All right, shout out to Paul. And let's see. Jim wants to know, when are eagles most active?
They're most active in, I would say, the spring. Even though they're a little bit more sedentary, but they are also, guarding their territory, defending their territory, feeding. So they are leaving the nest back and forth. Okay,
and what about like mornings, midday, evenings? They're out during the day.
They are, and one parent is always on the nest. So one will go out, get the food, bring it back, and they take turns, sitting on the nest.
Okay, and you mentioned kind of guarding their territory. Great point, because Karen wants to know, do they have territories, and any idea on the size of those?
In Missouri, it varies. It could be 1 acre, it could be 2, it could be a little bit more than that. It just depends on the food availability in that part of the area. Like I said, they have usually more than one nest in that territory, and they defend both of those nests. So it could be a little bit larger than the 1 to 2.
All right. Again, folks, great questions. Keep them coming. Share them through the chat box located on the right side of your webcast. Andrea wants to know, Eagle Days, Dan, parking.
Yes, so we actually, for the Eagle Days at the Old Chandler Rocks Bridge, we do have parking on site near the bridge. There is a $5 charge for that parking, but the money goes to actually a local school who does the parking logistics and staffs the lot. We do have free parking in North Riverfront Park, which is just up Riverview Drive a little ways, and that's free there. And we do have shuttle buses going back and forth, so there's an opportunity to park for free as well.
Okay, good to know. And you mentioned World Bird Sanctuary has their live programs. When do those run during Eagle Days?
Well, so they run pretty much the entire day. The event itself starts at 9 a.m. in the morning, goes till 3 p.m. in the afternoon, both Saturday and Sunday. And so usually about 10 o'clock or so is when the programs start from World Bird Sanctuary. And this year they're going until 2. So they're about every half hour or so. So you've got multiple chances throughout the day to stop in and see a program.
All right,
they do an excellent job.
And again, folks, you could stop in and see the programs. You could also just kind of hang out and visit and take your photos. Here again, Dan, you mentioned that this is a life-size banner of eagle wings.
It is. So it kind of gives you the idea of how big those birds really are when they spread their wings. And they're pretty impressive. And again, it's hard to see when they're at a distance, but when you can see them up close, either at like with the banner or the nest that we have that you can see back there, it really gives you an idea of how big these creatures really are. And then of course seeing them in the World Bird Program as well.
All right, here we have another pop quiz. This one from Janet, our expert. What's an eagle nest called?
It's called an eyrie.
Eyrie, okay.
And it's actually all raptors' nests.
All right, so raptors' nests are called eyries, and that's Eyrie.
Yes.
All right, Eyrie. That's for your spelling quiz, Wolf Kids. Thanks for being here. This is wonderful. And again, plenty of eagles to see in the wild and activities. Dan, again, when are Eagle Days at Old Chandler Rocks Bridge?
Okay, so that's this year. It's going to be January 19th and 20th. That's Saturday and Sunday. It always happens the same weekend as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is the following Monday. So that's the 19th and 20th of January for the Chain of Rocks Bridge event. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of things to do. And again, talking about the Lewis and Clark reenactors, so you see some pictures throughout here. They bring a lot to the table, I think, for this event. And it's really interesting for the kids to see and families to see how people lived back in, 1800, basically. And they'll have different things like period firearms so people can see what they're like. They sometimes will bring a boat, of that time period. They have a doctor, like I mentioned, that has some of the rather interesting tools of the trade back from 1800 and some of the different things they use there. So that's always fascinating for folks to see too.
All right, and we saw some pictures mostly here of bald eagles. We saw some pictures of golden eagles, and we have another question. Cyrus from Wolf School wants to know, can bald eagles and golden eagles mate together?
No, they do not.
Okay, different species.
Different species.
All right, and Ryan from Wolf, how far we always hear eagle eyes.
I know.
So what makes eagles' vision so amazing?
Well, I tell you, it is amazing. They can see maybe a fish or a mouse or a bird or whatever, maybe about a mile away.
Like a mouse.
A mouse.
A mile away.
Yes, a mile away.
That's amazing. I have a hard time seeing the TV from 10 feet.
Me too.
So
Me too.
That's pretty cool. And here's an eagle gliding over the water. I think, is that on the Mississippi?
It could be, and one of the things that makes the St. Louis area at least really good for bald eagle watching is we do have a lot of water. We've got two of the largest rivers on the whole continent coming together right near St. Louis there, the Mississippi River and the Missouri River. So they provide excellent opportunity for eagles to find fish, and they're open water, so they can still fish. And it's interesting too, when it does get a little colder though, you can actually see ice flows flowing down the river, which are really neat to look at. And a lot of times the eagles will be perched on those ice flows too, riding down the river. So
I'm getting a closer view. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And again, if folks want to discover nature with eagles, they could do it through our Eagle Days. They could also just check out eagles from this time of year through February throughout the state. Janet, you mentioned they nest high up in large trees.
Yes.
Ken wants to know from Wolf School, what types of trees do you usually see eagles in?
Well, they nest in very tall trees, and here in Missouri, we see them in cottonwood and sycamore. And I will say we saw one rare one in a pine tree, which is very different.
That is pretty interesting. Um, Good stuff. Keep the questions coming. And again, let's give a shout out to Steve, one of our Eagle Watch monitors, for this pretty cool picture. That's a lot of eagles in one area.
Yes, it was. And this was during the winter because in the summer we do not have congregation of eagles. They're pretty much solitary or just with the mate. So they will congregate in what we call a roost area.
Okay.
And they may feed together. So this is what this picture is.
Okay. And Dan, you kind of mentioned the old chain of rocks and the rapids kind of make a buffet for eagles. So kind of just like us, when the food's really plentiful, they will tend to gather in groups over the winter.
Yes, and it's really good. And you know, and you mentioned a lot of different places to see eagles. Usually near locks and dams are really good places. I know, sort of in the St. Louis vicinity, Winfield Lock and Dam is a really good spot to view eagles. Just north of St. Louis, Clarksville, who has their own Eagle Day celebration about a week or so after the Chain of Rocks, also a really, really, really excellent place to see eagles in great
Okay.
numbers.
And again, you can not only see eagles, but you can climb into a real size eagle nest that we made, so folks
That's
can
right.
get an idea of an eyrie. An eagle nest are also called an eyrie. Janet reminds me. Do eagles stay in Missouri year round?
We think they do, mainly because of the food availability.
Again, big rivers, open water, a lot of
Yes.
wildlife. So most of the eagles are migrants. They come down from Alaska and Canada and kind of up around the Great Lakes. And wintering eagle, because of our big open waters this time of year, we do have some nesting pairs in the state.
Yes, we have some nesting pairs. We think they really do stay because we get some of the Eagle Nest monitors said, hey, they're still there
Okay.
during the winter months.
Okay. Any idea? Ellie wants to know where in the United States are they're the most eagles and the most active nests.
Alaska,
Good to know. Again, big country way up north. They love that.
absolutely.
Pop quiz question. Noah wants to know, do we know, is there a reason why the eagle's head is white?
We do not, but we do know that the word for bald was white
Right.
in
Okay.
Old English. So
Okay.
it was just kind of a misnomer
Okay.
that the bald eagle was bald, but bald meant white.
Good to know. Interesting. And Colin wants to know, are they native to Missouri?
They are.
Very good. Very good. And again, majestic. Thanks. We've got Paul here. Shout out to Paul for this amazing photo. Again, folks, we have a few minutes left, so you could share your questions again through our chat box. Thanks for the great questions, especially students at the Wolf School. Great job. We appreciate that. We have a few more minutes for a few more questions, so keep them coming. And in the meantime, again, Dan, Eagle Days happening throughout the state. Anything that we missed, maybe, that we want folks to know or remind them of?
Well, sure. Well, again, dress for the weather. That's the thing. I can't stress that enough because it's occasionally we have an odd time where it's actually warmer than usual, but typically you need to dress pretty warm.
And again, it's Missouri, so the
And
weather could
Missouri,
change every few minutes.
The weather could change every few minutes, but definitely, whether it's the Eagle Days, the Old Chain of Rocks Bridge in January 19th and 20th, or if you want to go to one of our other Eagle Day celebrations throughout the state, definitely get out there and enjoy the Eagles. And also our website has listings of great Eagle viewing spots. So if you can't make it to one of our Eagle Days events, or you want to go on your own and do your own thing, definitely encourage you to do that. There's some great spots to view eagles. Bring your binoculars, bring your cameras with your telephoto lenses, and make sure you dress warm. But you can really see some amazing eagles if you go to the right spot.
All right, and a few more questions, folks. So Colin wants to know, how fast, how far, and how high can eagles fly?
Absolutely. I tell you, the height of the flight is about 10,000 feet, and diving is about 100. miles per
100
hour.
miles an hour.
Pretty amazing. And just cruising is about 30, 35, but diving is pretty amazing just to see that if you haven't seen it.
It's amazing. And I think the fastest recorded bird in the world is the peregrine falcon,
is.
which can dive about 200 miles an
That is
hour.
correct, John.
So the eagle, 100 miles an hour, that's pretty impressive.
It is.
And how high can they fly?
10,000 feet.
10,000 feet, that's like up with airplanes.
It is.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Sherry wants to know, do eagles ever use their heads and lower their heads as they skim the water to catch fish, or do they always grab it with their talons or their feet?
They go talon first.
So they go talon first?
Yes.
And Dan, you were mentioning too, Eagle Days, big congregations of eagles. And then Janet, you said in the winter they come together, kind of like the buffet. Parker wants to know, do they ever fight each other?
Well, bald eagles have been known to take fish and other from other birds and other eagles.
So it's kind of common, they bicker over a fish or food and kind of fight like that.
And they will take it from other species, from a turkey vulture as well.
Okay, good to know. And again, our Eagle Watch program, we're about out of time here, folks. So if you want to be involved or get involved with letting us know where eagle nests are and watching them, what can folks do, Janet?
Please give me a call or either go to eaglewatch@mdc.mo.gov. That comes directly to me, and I will respond immediately and send you whatever paperwork you need to get started.
So shoot an email to eaglewatch@mdc.mo.gov or go online to our website and search Eagle Watch or mdc.mo.gov/eagle-watch-program. Thank you. Okay, let's see, last couple questions. Paige wants to know, those eagle nests, they're huge, they're heavy. How long does it take an eagle to build that kind of nest?
That is a good question. Typically, it takes 1 to 3 months, but some have been known, if they failed, to build them within a few days or a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like you said, every year they kind of rebuild and make them bigger and better.
They do. They just keep adding, I call it refurbishing.
Okay. Last question, Sean from Wolf School. Do eagles get diseases and any kind of big ones we should know about?
Not any big ones. We do reportedly deaths of bald eagles are actually collision with vehicles.
So they land on a road to eat a carcass, a roadkill animal, don't see a truck coming, boom.
Yeah, and the lift up, if they're trying to carry something to lift up and they don't quite make that clearance. So we do have deaths in those regards.
Well, all right, folks. Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Dan, and thank you to our participants. What a fun time. We're about out of time here, so we want to remind folks, again, Dan, Eagle Days at Old Chain of Rocks Bridge coming up
January 19th and 20th from 9 to 3 p.m. both days, Saturday and Sunday.
All right. We also have other Eagle Days events around the state and a list of great places to watch eagles. Janet, any favorites?
All of them my favorite. Jeff City. I'm going to the one in Jeff City.
So we have one coming up at Runge Nature Center in Jeff City. Find out more at mdc.mo.gov. Search Eagle Days. And again, folks, thank you. Our hour's about up. So Dan and Janet, thank you again for joining us, informing us, entertaining us, engaging us. Thank you to our webcast participants, especially the students at Wolf School. We greatly appreciate you joining us. And thanks, everyone. Learn more about bald eagles in Missouri. Go into our website at Eagle Days, and then just get outside and discover nature, folks. That rounds it up.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us.
It's been a pleasure.